Donald Trump just gave an awful speech from the Oval Office about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, rather than try to bring Americans together to talk about calmness and that an investigation is taking place and we're going to get to the bottom of this and that political violence is never acceptable as we continue to gather more facts. Saying words to that effect, Donald Trump's statement is to say, this is the fault of the radical left and Democrats, and they did this, and they're scum, and we should go after them. And then Donald Trump brings up the assassination attempt on him in Butler, Pennsylvania, where all the right-wing influencers and media blamed on Democrats and liberals. And then it turned out that the shooter was from a Trump-supporting family. The shooter was like a Trumper, a registered Republican, and then they tried to quickly change that talking point, or then, regardless of the facts, say they tried to go after Donald Trump, the liberals did, when that's not what happened. Remember when you had Melissa Hortman, the Speaker Emeritus of the Minnesota House of Representatives, where she was assassinated by a right-wing individual, and all of MAGA tried to say it was a liberal and Governor Walz appointed the guy and this was a radical lefty. It was like a Trump supporting right-wing guy, but they spread all of these deranged conspiracies. Do you remember Donald Trump was asked, well, are you going to call Governor Walz of Minnesota to discuss with him we knew it was a political assassination of the Democrat Melissa Hortman and her husband, and Donald Trump attacks Governor Walz. You remember this? And says he's whacked out. He's a mess. Why would I call that guy? Here, play this clip.
Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. He's a mess. So, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
Now, Donald Trump's speech from the Oval Office was indeed deeply divisive, but it was not divisive isn't the word. It was a lot of disinformation and attacking liberals in a very dangerous way. It's a more accurate way of describing what took place. But frankly, that language is mimicking and encouraging what we're seeing from right-wing accounts right now, whether it's libs of TikTok saying this is war, or saying the Democrat Party must be classified as a domestic terrorist organization and their members and leaders treated accordingly. Enough is enough, says Joey Monorino. You had Laura Loomer's account saying that Democrats are terrorists, and a bunch of other accounts saying that, we should send the Air Force to eradicate Democrats or round the effers up. You don't even have the facts, by the way, of who was involved in the shooting. So Kash Patel, who runs the FBI, got it wrong twice, where they brought in a suspect. First, not the right suspect. They let him out. Another person, Kash Patel, posted on social media, we got the guy, was not the guy. I think the guy had a pellet gun, not a gun that was capable of doing the assassination. You don't know the facts. And so the right away, though, the way the right wing uses this, weaponizes it, says the Dems did this, the liberals did this, get rid of them, eradicate, exterminate. They use that language, is horrific. You know where I stood on the MeidasTouch network and where I stand right now. We condemn in the fullest terms possible, in the strongest terms possible, political violence, regardless of my views of Charlie Kirk and how I think Charlie Kirk has some of the most hurtful and hateful ideology, and the things that he said were horrific, and my disagreements with him were very, very strong. The way you handle your disagreements is not through political violence. Like Adam Mockler from our network was preparing to debate Charlie Kirk next week. They had an event that they were going to be doing together where there was going to be a debate, because that's how it should still work in the United States of America, regardless of my views that the stuff that Charlie Kirk would say are heinous and horrific stuff that he said. I condemn political violence. But all you have now is, I think, Democrats, by and large, saying that, And then you have these statements from right-wing accounts basically saying eradicate. I mean, really dangerous language. I mean, here's what Nancy Mace said outside of the Capitol. And I give credit to this reporter, Ryan Nobles, for pressing her on the right question here, saying, so if you're saying Democrats were responsible for this, we don't know who the assassin is right now, number one. How do you know it's not like a right-wing person who doesn't have certain other views, that he disagreed with? How do you know? We don't know. So why are you even saying that? But then we know that Melissa Hortman, a Democrat, was killed in a political assassination by a Republican. So what's your response there, Nancy Mace?
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country called panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot.
Then by that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota? Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm asking.
We don't know what condition Charlie Kirk is in right now. Some raging leftist lunatic put a bullet through his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now? No.
No, I'm asking.
No, not at all.
You said the Democrats have to own it too. But I'm asking,
Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem with political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk right now. That's the subject of this that we're talking about right now. Democrats own this 100%.
Then you have MAGA Mike Johnson being asked what he thinks, and he also spreads this, rhetoric about, it's Democrats with big influencer accounts. They're the ones responsible for this. Here, play this clip.
It's clear. You've had people who have resorted to political violence because they were encouraged along by the dialogue out in the public square. And some of that is put forward by elected officials and people with large platforms, large social media platforms. And they're saying and doing things that make it personal. And people direct their anger to individuals. I mean, this is not who we are. We're better than this. We need to be setting an example as Americans.
Then for reasons that are unclear, you have Pete Hegseth, who calls himself the Secretary of War, speaks with the military about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Again, as Amanda Moore says, does anyone have a link to the eulogy video he surely made for Representative Melissa Hortman after she was assassinated? I can't find it. Why are you bringing our military in here? Play this clip.
I'd also be remiss if I did not acknowledge why that flag is at half staff. We lost an incredible American today, a dear friend of mine. If you knew him, you love him. His name is Charlie Kirk. Taken by an assassin's bullet. Unfathomable.
And then, by the way, this performative stuff, though, is not helping, right? I'm going to do a video in about 90 minutes I encourage you to watch, which is how the FBI field office fired their leader, a Pakistani woman in Utah. She was running the FBI field office. Trump didn't want women and Muslims to be a part of it because she's a Pakistani woman. They got rid of her. She worked her entire life basically in the FBI. She rose through the ranks. She led counterterrorism out of DC. And you got rid of her, which could have been helpful to prevent situations like this from the outset, because that's one of the things that FBI does. And then you screwed it up and said there were 2 suspects that were the shooter, and you got it wrong not once but twice, and you posted it on social media. In the video I'm going to make in 90 minutes that I want you to watch, I talk about the FBI lawsuit that was filed by the former acting director of the FBI, that guy Driscoll, along with other senior leaders who got fired because Trump didn't like that they were at the FBI when Trump was being investigated. And they're like, we're the top FBI people that are here on counterterrorism issues. And remember, they replaced those senior officials with some 22-year-old intern, some guy named Thomas Fugate III, who is no qualifications to be in the FBI, who's running the domestic terrorism unit. I mean, that's horrible stuff right there. Now, I'll share with you some of the statements coming out from Democrats like Congressmember Raskin, condemning another absolutely disgraceful act of gun violence. My thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk and his family in this terrible moment, and we're all grateful for first responders who immediately jumped into action. We must categorically reject all violence in our society. You have Senator Mark Kelly, whose wife, Gabrielle Giffords, of course, she was a victim of a shooting as well. He goes, the news that Charlie Kirk was shot while speaking in Utah is shocking and horrible. It's an example of political violence that has no place in our country. Gabby and I are thinking about him and his family. But meanwhile, on Fox, you have senators like Mark Wayne Mullen saying the following. Here, play this clip.
They robbed a voice that spoke common sense because of their hatred to people that disagree with them, but yet they're the ones that try to champion free speech. But we're not the ones out there trying to silence them through violence. It's ridiculous. And I know, Sean, that I'm not the only one out there hurting, and I'm not the only one that's upset by this. But when is enough enough? When is the Democrats going to stand up and apologize for the hatred and the lies that they have fed their base that's led to these actions?
Now, I'll show you what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office now, but I wanted to not include him at the outset of the video because I wanted to show you all of the facts about what's happening. And so here's what he said in the Oval Office, and here's what they posted. Let's play it.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
And that statement right there is horrific. It's dangerous. It is intended to incite violence. It is pretextual as a way to send the military, like he wants to do, against Democrats and against liberals. That's their goal and objective. And there was no facts about who was the shooter as of last night. That remains unknown. And I believe one of the reasons it remains unknown is because of the poor work being done by the FBI. That's my opinion. I don't know that for sure, but they've done very bad work on this so far. And it's not shocking when you realize that they fired their top people who were running that field office. You know, that's one of the things that I'm going to be covering soon. Here she is right here, what her name is. Her name is Mehtab Saeed, Pakistani American. They fired her a few weeks ago after putting her in the position in February. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.